These first episodes of Llama's Love Lettering have been kind of like the first episodes of Game of Thrones in the new seasons, putting the pieces into place to get going on the actual plot. Consider this the first episode of the actual plot of Llama's Love Lettering. We are going to be taking a style I taught in the first season and adding a little something extra to it. The style that we're going to be talking about is the negative space serif style that we talked about in episode 3 of season 1 of Llama's Love Lettering, which I'll have linked down below. Negative space serif lettering. If you didn't watch that, what in the hell is it? What it really means is that you're adding kind of some air to the letter, like if it was a balloon with sharp corners. I don't know what a balloon with sharp corners would actually look like, but that's where the negative space is. Serifs are those little lines on the bottom of fonts like Times New Roman. When you see fonts that are called serif versus sans serif, the sans serif fonts don't have that little line. The serif fonts do, and now you understand that. Now what we're doing today is adding some curliness to the letters. You can do an entire font with just these curlies. Consider using the first letter or the letter you want to emphasize as the letter with the curliness instead of doing the whole thing curly. Too much curly can sometimes look kind of hard to read. As a quick refresher, you can see here, I'm using a red pen to kind of represent a pencil. To make this negative space in the letter when you're first practicing, draw the letter out as you normally would, make it maybe a little bit wider than you normally would. Then add that extra chunk of space wherever you want to. You can see on the practice sheets that I'm including where I've added it. Then go over the whole thing with a pen. I'm using a black Papermate Flare for this entire tutorial. Go over that, then erase the pencil. Soon, after enough practice, you'll actually get good at remembering where to put that kind of air in the negative, where you want to put the negative space. With enough practice, you will get to the point where you don't even need to draw the original letter out. You'll just know where to put the negative space, which is where I'm at. So as you see me going through this capital alphabet, you'll see that I'm not drawing anything like that. I'm just going through and actually putting in the negative space by muscle memory, which is what you want to develop. And like I said, you go back to episode 3 in season 1 and you will really understand kind of the concept behind this. Now, why am I doing only capital letters today? Well, it's because often a capital letter is the first letter of a word, and that's the letter you emphasize. I will do in a future lesson the lowercase letters with the little curly on them as well, but for the sake of time, I wanted to just do capital letters today and focus on that. So let's get into it. Let's actually show you how I'm doing the curlies on these letters. Adding the little swirly onto these letters, there's no specific best practice of doing it. So when I do these are how I just have chosen. When I'm adding the serif, instead of just drawing a straight serif, I add a little curl. It kind of reminds me of like a sled or maybe an elf shoe, an elf like Will Ferrell. I added it here. You can just as easily add it on top or to a different serif. The examples I'm showing you are just that. They're examples. So if you don't like that or you want to experiment, like watch this with the B. I'm just going straight out and adding a little curly before I go and add the rest of the bits to the B. The practice situations that I have left you in the worksheets are just to give you an idea of what to practice. You don't have to do it this way. So for C, I kind of struggle at first to figure it out, but then what I decided to do was take the curly up on top and go up into the C and then end it here. And I actually think that looks fancy as fuck, but you may not. You may think that that looks like it has the hairdo of one of the T-birds from Greece, which I don't see why that would be a problem, especially if it's Adrian Zmed from Greece too. But, you know, everybody has their own tastes. Now with E, one of the things I think is cool is instead of adding it to the back, I'm adding it to the front. I'm replacing one of these situations, kind of like what I did with the C here, with a curly. And this is not going to be the only letter that happens with, but I just think now it looks like the E's a little dude riding on a sled. So if you're thinking about that, like think of each of these letters riding on their own individual sleds or having Adrian's med hair, that might be an easy way to think about how to do this. So with F, I'm doing the same thing, but F is getting the Grease 2 hair treatment. See? It's the hair club for men, except it's for F. Hair club for F. I don't know why, but that sounds kind of dirty. So for G, rather than put the curly there though, I bring it in, bring it up, and then just bring it in like that. So I'm replacing this part with the curly. And I kind of like that. I feel like if I go up on top like a C, like this for the G, I don't know, that looks kind of like a douchebag hair to me, but that's, again, personal preference. If you don't think that looks like douchebag hair, then more power to you. Now with H, I put it here. H is a letter that I feel like can kind of look awkward in this style regardless. There's different ways you can mess around with it. And if you have some cool ones, post them on Instagram and tag them hashtag SLEDZmed and tag me so I can see kind of your ideas on how to curly up the serifs in your letters. Actually, I think that's a really great idea, and I'm going to continue to promote that through the rest of this video. So with I think was the only one that I added like subtle curlies, the top and the bottom, just because if it was on top, it would start to look like an unfinished F, and if it was only on the bottom, it would start to look like a slightly stunted L, and I just didn't want that. So with the J, like the Y you'll see later, I just replaced the little circle part with the curly. K, one of my least favorite letters to letter because I feel like it's super awkward, actually gets improved in this method. I actually think that is probably one of my most favorite Ks I've ever lettered is this style, and I will stick with that forever. I might just do that in no matter what font I'm using. So with L, bring it out. Remember to bring it out enough to give it like some like nice definition. If you do it too close, it might look like you're just doing a fucked up I, like this. If you bring it in too close like this, that looks more like an I that wants to be an L. So make sure to give yourself this extra amount of space here to make sure it's defined. Because no matter how decorative this is, at its core, it is still a font. I mean, at its core, it is still lettering. So you need to be able to read it. Now, don't judge how janky this M looks. I've been having trouble with my M's all day, and that's as good as you're getting. Now with the N, I'm going to actually, this initial thing, I'm going to curl this because I actually think that looks really rad, and then just draw the rest of the N in as usual. Oh, I'm going to remove this entire section right here. I'm removing that. And what I'm going to do is it's going to be an all-in-one motion. So you start at the top, around, and as you're coming to the end, just curl it in like that, and then just add this. And there's your curly O. For P, I tried this out. Now you want to make sure to give yourself enough room and then curl it in. And then you can add this. And if you have space, go ahead and add that as well. Q is actually basically the same. Just draw a regular O. But then instead of a ball down here, like for this section, right here, just add a curly. And now it looks like it has a little tail, a little curly tail. Isn't that precious? For the R, I'm not doing the same thing as the P. You can, but I actually, because R is another one I sometimes struggle with because of this, that curly I think just makes it look super cute. S is going to be one that gives people trouble. It gave me, I did it 3 times right before I got it on the, I had to do it 3 times before I got it on the worksheet. Start with a curl, come around, go up and back into a curl, then just grab your center area as you would with the standard S. I may devote an entire lesson in Llama's Love Lettering this time around on how to conquer your fear of the S, but for now, that's what you're getting. Now for T, I'm replacing both of these 2 situations here with curlies to make it look super fancy. So I'm gonna start the curl here. I'm gonna go up, across, down, and then add the other curly, and then just add the rest of the T, and there you go. You don't have to curl quite so deep either. You can do it more like the Y, or the I, where it's less defined if you want to. That makes it look kind of like those old film, you know, not the 35 millimeter, but the other one where the film looked like this from the side, and they were the long cameras. I had to take one of those to science camp. Hashtag back in the day. For the U, I'm curling it in, but you can also curl it out, as I'm going to show with the Y. These are kind of interchangeable. With the Y, I'm going to add a curly out, kind of like I said, Smed hair. You can go either way. You can swap those in or out with either of these letters and just do what you think looks great. Same with the W. With the W, drawing my letter in. And then instead of a serif here, I'm just going to add the curly out. But you can also add the curly in. And the one on my worksheet looks way cooler than this one does. This one looks kind of whack, but we're not worried about that right now. Now for X you have a little bit more room to play with because you have this one line here, and you can do whatever you want with it. So you can curl it on both sides, which I actually like better than what I did on the worksheet. So on the worksheet, I did it this way, where I curled the one side, but then I left the other side flat. I actually think I like this way better, and I wish I had done it on the worksheet, but I've already got them all figured out, so I'm not going to redo it. So if you've made it this far in the video, then you know that there's a better way. With the Y, I did the same as I did with the J. And then with the Z, you can curl both ends if you want to. You can do it if you want to. I'm going to try that. I didn't do that before. Z stresses me out. Z is one of the letters I struggle with. I actually really like the curl on both ends, so you can do that. But on the worksheet, I have the curl here and this here. Or you can do the top. There's many different ways you can do it. So I'm highly amused with myself with the whole SLEDSMED hashtag, but I think we're gonna go with that. And P.S., if you haven't seen Grease 2 and you don't understand why this whole thing is cracking me up, you should watch it. It is so bad that it's amazing. It's one of my favorites. If you're gonna post your work on Instagram, it would amuse the shit out of me if you tagged SLEDSMED in a hashtag and tagged me at Llama Letters so that I can find it. And don't forget to join the Llamas Love Lettering Facebook group on Facebook. It's linked down below. That's where all the worksheets are going to be posted so that you can find them and use them. I actually have upgraded how I do my worksheets so they look kind of sexual now. And don't forget to let me know in the comments if there's any specific kinds of lettering you'd like to see for season 2. I have no idea how long this season's gonna be. This season could be the next fucking 2 years. Who knows? I will tell you that there will be episodes every Friday, and don't forget that on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific time, we have the post-episode show in the Llamas Love Lettering Facebook group where you can ask questions, chit-chat with me about the previous episode. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.